I've been planning this for weeks.
Yeah, I've already packed all my stuff. I'm leaving. And then your broker's like, haha, no, you're not.
Oh, this is so stressful, and I'm not even moving.
You're not even doing it?
I'm not even going anywhere.
All right, next up.
And everything, looks greener when you're not there.
Right. The grass is green where you water it, they say.
Yeah. It is not. That's still a you problem that you're going to have to fix somehow.
Right.
The only people that pay any attention to those are other agents. And then we talk about you.
I know.
And when it didn't happen and I confronted them, they told me it was my fault.
Hi, Alissa.
Hey, Katy.
Welcome. And today we're going to tell you how to broker change.
How to change brokers.
Not why.
No, not why.
Or if you should.
No.
Or how to pick one.
No. We already have covered that.
We've already done all those things.
Mm-hmm.
This is the literal logistics on what do you do, the checklist, if you're going to change.
Correct.
And there is quite a long checklist. In fact, I think the fact that the checklist is so long is why so many people stay at a toxic brokerage.
The thought of leaving is so daunting.
It's like, I can't do all this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think having a checklist, although it is long, will be like, I can do this. I know what the steps are. I think I always felt like I'm going to forget something.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to be like everything falls apart.
And I have never done this. So
you're coming from a place of no knowledge.
Right.
But you've seen people change brokers.
And I've listened to stories. I've listened to where the issues arise, the things that people don't think about, things that I had never really thought about. And we get so many messages of advice, which is what created this episode to come to be, which is also what created this list. Do you want to talk about the list?
Yes, I received I can't remember what time, someone saying,
many times.
I'm about to change brokers. What do I do?
Right.
And I had started this list a couple of times in two ways. If you're here and you're like, I'm not changing brokers, I don't need to know this, or I just wanted to see what we're talking about. I do also think a lot of this is startup. Mm-hmm. So if you're brand new or not even in an office yet, these are the things you have to do when you start up.
Yeah, I also think this could be a really great resource for brokers.
Yeah.
When you are getting a new agent, you need to help them through that transition.
You have no business recruiting agents if you can't make this transition easier for them.
Right.
Because if you're just like, hey, come to my office, and then you're like, here's the form I signed, good luck for everything else.
Mm-hmm.
No, you need to give them the checklist.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to give you the checklist.
Yeah.
We'll give you a cheat sheet.
It's a freebie.
So I had already started this list many times because it feels like a system that you need. You don't need it until you need it, and then you really need it.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, God, how am I going to figure this out?
The only time I had like a dose of this is when we went from CJ Brown to Ladder and Bloom. We were always, as long as I've been there, CJ Brown, and then under it, small, was a Ladder and Bloom company.
That was too much.
Too much. So then they just rebranded us.
Yeah.
And I did get a lot of questions like, did y'all get bought or what happened? And I was like, no, we just rebranded. And I was glad for it.
Right. The colors were much better.
Yes, it was fine. But I did have to get a new email address, but they took care of making sure that everything forwarded correctly.
Right.
So it worked out. But just that came with some things that needed to be done and updated.
Yeah.
So that's the closest I've come to having to make a transition of sorts.
Okay, well, and I've made it a few times. But when I was 3 months in and I changed from my original broker, I had never done any sales.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have to worry about any of that logistics of what's open and pending and whatever. Then I was at the small office, fine, and it was closing and absorbed by the RE/MAX. Mm-hmm. So there was still transition, but we were all doing it together. My broker was like, hey, don't forget to do this. We have to do this. I'm changing over all of it. It was not too hard. The last one is the only time when I've ever switched of my own accord at like the time when I was like, okay, well, and I switched during right after quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
So it was 2020. It was the first time in, I can't remember how many years where I had no listings, no pendings.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last one's closed on April 1st.
You were like, now's the time.
Everything had been quiet. I'm like, well, if I'm going to go, this is going to be the easiest because I'm removing that part of the process, the transitioning my clients. Because I think that's the hardest part.
I would agree.
Do you have listings? Do you have a pending sale coming? Like, how are you going to get paid? Is your current broker going to be upset that you're leaving? What basis do you need to cover? Okay, so let's start with how we have broken out the checklist. And you also consulted with some other agents who've made a change here and there.
Correct.
And they sent over the checklist that they had found online. There were a couple. So they exist in the world. Like if you need a checklist, they're out here. But I'm going to give you mine. I broke it into physical assets and digital assets because you have both, right? So under physical assets are forms, marketing assets, okay? Under digital assets, it's contact info and then software and websites. And I know this is a lot. Do you want to get more clients and referrals from using social media without spending hours and hours creating content?
Here's our secret, Modern Agent Social Club. Mask is the marketing membership that pairs current content trends with timeless strategies to help you grow your real estate business from the comfort of your couch.
When you join Mask, you'll have instant access to relatable and approachable content every single month because your brand needs you in it.
You'll also get a weekly private podcast giving you the creative strategies you need to stay relevant,
marketing campaigns to grow your email list,
and weekly email templates to keep you top of mind with your database, and so much more.
In just 30 minutes a week, you can go from barely showing up on social media to showing up in a way that attracts and connects you with your perfect fit followers.
Doors to Modern Agent Social Club are open right now for a limited time. Head on over to hustlehumblypodcast.com/mask and use the code Hustle Humbly to get your first month free. hustlehumblypodcast.com/MASC. Mask.
Okay, so we're going to tell some stories as we go through the list, though, right?
It won't be so boring.
All right, let's start with physical assets forms. Before you start any transfer process, please go find your contract and read it.
Read your contract.
Maybe you're not even allowed to change yet, and then you're really going to turn an uncomfortable situation extra uncomfortable. If you're like, I'm leaving, and then your broker's like, haha, no, you're not. Read.
Right, here's the fine print.
Read the fine print. So read your contract. Know when it's up. Know when it renews. Know when you have to say, I'm canceling. Because most of them automatically renew. And you have to give it's almost like an apartment lease. You have to give like a 30-day notice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you better read your contract. And they're different at every office. And maybe you did not sign one. Great. If you didn't sign one, you leave whatever you want. But a lot of people, most brokers make you sign one.
I have heard some horror stories about people leaving their brokerage and the broker just totally turning on them.
On a dime.
I think it's so important to make sure if you are a broker listening to this episode, you need to have an open door policy.
I don't want to hold a client hostage. I don't want to hold an agent. Like if you don't want to be here, I don't think this isn't a fit for you. We're not jiving. I want you to go.
Yes.
As a broker.
Yeah.
You have to be. And I think that it's a rejection.
Yes.
And so I understand that it would be like, I mean, if an employee leaves you, you feel like hurt. Like, well, I've put time and effort into you, or I recruited you, or maybe you think I'm no good and that other place is.
I think, and I'm not a broker, but I think that I would feel that way.
Yeah.
Anytime I had someone leave, it's like, did I not do enough? Was I slacking? Because you are the broker. So you're sort of the main reason you're driving the ship. So if they're jumping ship, what's going on? But sometimes it's just, what are some reasons you've heard people want to switch? The people that I have talked to, for example, like one just wanted more in-person sales meetings, education.
Yeah, I've heard training many times.
So much about
more training.
Yes, I've heard people switch for a bigger office.
Yeah.
I've heard people switch for a smaller office, depending on where you are in your season of where you are in your career.
Yeah, people switch for financial reasons. Like, is the split different? Is what are the fees there? So, I mean, completely financial. A lot of people switch because they think it's going to get them more business.
Yes.
Like, how many leads do I get?
I think that's the worst reason to switch is they're promising me these leads.
Right.
The majority of the coffee dates that I had are people who were disappointed because they switched brokers because of what they were promised.
Mm-hmm.
They were promised the leads.
Yeah.
And everything, looks greener when you're not there.
Right. The grass is green where you water it, they say.
Yes. Yes.
No.
And whenever you do make that switch and the leads, maybe they are giving you leads, but they're trash leads, garbage leads. You're not closing them. Like one coffee date in particular, she said, I switched here because they promised me all these leads and they promised a certain volume.
Yeah.
And when it didn't happen and I confronted them, they told me it was my fault, that I was not converting correctly and that this was all on me. And she was so well-spoken, very driven. Like sometimes you can see.
You couldn't put it together.
The story wasn't making sense. But the point being is, if it sounds too good to be true, don't let that be the only reason you're making a switch.
Right.
There needs to be other supporting reasons for that switch outside of just leads. Leads are a huge buzzword right now, has been for several years. And there are many ways that you can provide leads. And so making sure that those are leads you actually want to work.
Yeah.
And what does this really look like?
Right. And before you start going through this checklist, like just commit, I'm going to go. One, remember, you're being recruited.
Yes.
Someone's trying to make money off of you, whether they have the best of intentions or not. If your broker change was not even a something in your mind and someone convinces you that you need to leave, you really better do some deep thinking about, do you really want to leave? And I think you owe your current broker the courtesy of saying, let's have an open conversation. I'm considering a switch because of XYZ.
Yes.
Because I need more business, because I need a different split. Like, can we renegotiate? Like, I feel like I want more training. Do you have anything available to me that I'm not using? Like, why? A lot of people, it's just like a breakup, right?
Yes.
It's just like a breakup. You let all the little issues build up and fester. And instead of telling the other person what's going on, you're just like, I don't want to be together anymore. It's too late.
Too late. I've been planning this for weeks.
Yeah, I've already packed all my stuff. I mean, that's basically what happens, right?
Yeah, it's better if you could, maybe try counseling first.
Right.
Talk it out. Can this be salvaged?
Should we go to couples therapy first?
Yeah.
Like, what can we do?
Before we call this quits, what are you unhappy about?
Because you're about to hear how much work this is.
It's a lot of work to switch.
I don't know why it shouldn't be. I would like to say you should not be embarrassed if you make a switch.
No.
But when you talk to agents, they're like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm switching brokers.
What if you've switched like 10 times?
People there's notably an agent who we're friends with, but that has moved a lot of times and has said, I don't like being known as that thing, like that agent that has switched a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And every switch had a reason.
Sure. But yeah, maybe you shouldn't have been there at all.
Right.
And I also think, I remember sitting in the meeting. So when they were telling us they were rebranding the company, I was sitting in a room with people who had been at this company much longer than me. And there was, of course, some distress and what are we going to do about this? And how do we explain this to my clients? And I basically stood up and was like, I don't plan on making any huge announcements.
Not necessary.
My buyers and sellers care not.
No.
They don't, even if I were to switch companies.
Don't care.
I don't need to say, listen,
right,
Mr. Buyer, I know this is a big deal, but I am changing companies.
They're going to be like, okay.
They'd be like, do you still show me houses?
Right. How does it affect me?
Right.
Is all your clients care about.
It affects you none.
Zero.
Okay. Yeah. It doesn't affect you at all.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Now I just feel like something bad should happen, but nothing is going to happen.
No.
There's no point in making these huge outlandish announcements.
Right. Unless you suddenly have new value to bring your sphere or clients because you're there.
Yes.
The simple fact that you have moved is not worth an announcement.
I don't think so. Not at all.
Not required.
Now, if you're creating your own brokerage and you're doing a rebrand, that's could be a little different.
It's exciting.
Yes.
It's like a behind the scenes excitement. But unless people are literally calling you on your office phone at your current brokerage, they won't
know how to reach me.
They don't. Like, sure, maybe your email changed. That I could see. Like, if your email has changed and you need to be, maybe some ways that they can't. But if your phone number is the same, they're going to find you.
Your cell phone doesn't change.
But it brings up a good topic, and we'll get to it on, we'll wait for digital assets. But
okay.
I mean, think about your email, All right. So forms. Get your contract, read it, figure out what the board of realtors requires you. There's a transfer form that probably needs to be signed by your new and your old broker, which is really weird and awkward.
Yeah.
And again, red flag. If your new broker isn't willing to give you any list or help you in any way figure this out, maybe they're not going to be helpful with other things, right? Like if they're not even like, hey, do this, do this.
And that's a really good point. I mean, I had an agent that recently was leaving their company to go to this other company just because they were very pretty looking on, and they're a good company, but like they were very pretty looking on social media. It was more like design. So they're like, okay, I'm going over here because it's prettier.
Right.
Signed up, received zero help on the transition. Had never moved companies before, did not realize what goes into it.
Right.
Did not understand that the email at the previous company would be shut off effective immediately. No guidance or direction at all. Just recruitment effort on you come here.
The rest is your problem.
The rest is your problem. She was there for about 3 weeks and then went back to the old broker. And I say that too because the old broker did the right thing by keeping that door open.
Yeah, instead of taking it badly.
Yes, and so personal that it affected the relationship.
When I was at my RE/MAX office for 14 years, many, many agents went.
Yes. And
came back. Because if you don't let them go in a negative way, if that isn't a bad part, like a bad breakup, a lot of times people come back. They're like, I went to the grass was not greener. I really liked it here. I am back.
Yeah.
If you say, look, I understand your need to move for whatever reason, but if it doesn't work out, this door is always open, then they come back. Truly they do. Okay. So there's the form. You got to get your form from whatever licensing body.
And you have to make sure that when you're reading your contract with your current broker, do you have active listings?
Right.
What does your contract say about your current pending or active files under that broker name?
Yep.
When they sign a listing agreement, it is not with Alissa Jenkins.
Right.
It is with the brokerage. I am not the broker.
Yep.
So those are the things that you need to make sure. That's why it was such a good time for you to quickly make your shift.
Yeah, I didn't have to worry about that.
While you didn't have anything pending.
And those clients, like if I had listings that I was allowed to take with me, there would have been some, like, sign this form for my clients. I didn't have to do any of that because I didn't have any listings. Also, if you're going to be if you are switching and you're allowed to keep yours, what are the forms you need your clients to sign? Prep those forms. Make sure that you have the new contracts ready.
And this is all at what point? Like, have you talked to your broker yet? Or have you?
You need to do the majority of this part behind the scenes. But unless if you want to have an upfront conversation, not the I'm leaving conversation.
Right.
But if you want to have the upfront, I'm thinking of changing, can we work this out? Couples therapy situation, great. But the rest of this, we're going to do as much behind the scenes. And we're going to talk about why. Okay, so your broker transfer form, anything that's required as far as changing your contact info and addresses, you need to have that all prepped and ready to go. Because you almost want to flip it like a switch.
Yeah.
Right? Like how much legwork can we do on the back end before we just literally send in the documents, right? Okay, next up, your marketing assets. This you could probably wait to do when you make the switch, like after you tell your broker. However, none of this signage. Do you have any current listings? Maybe you don't need signage right now. Maybe you can borrow one from your new broker that's like generic, not your name, whatever. Your business cards. You don't ever need these.
I know.
So do you want to get new ones? Fine, but it's not something you have to prep before you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I only use them when I'm like handwriting letters to other agents or professionals.
Since I put my info on the back of the thank you card, I don't need them at all.
I know.
Ever.
They're not as big of a deal.
To throw them into a fishbowl and win a contest? No, thank you. That just puts you on an email list, right?
Right.
Okay, flyers, print ads, marketing, though that stuff you need to be really careful with because I know in our market, the board's pretty serious about enforcing those marketing rules. So you've got to make sure all that information is up to date. So you can do that when you switch, but just have it on your list.
So would this be like your Canva templates that you're using for your marketing? Like what would this be?
Yes, because you need to update your broker's info, the address. You'd probably also need to make sure your broker approves because depending on the franchise, does it need to have independently owned and operated? Does it need to have the logo a certain way? Like maybe you were at an independent firm that didn't care. Maybe now you're going to like a bigger, like what are the rules?
Right.
What are the rules? Now your new broker should tell you that. So like again, this whole marketing section probably could happen right after the move, or at least after you tell the first forms, you got to have that ready before.
Sure.
All right, let's go to digital assets because a lot of these need to be pre. Okay. Contact info. Let's talk about your email address.
I think that would be the most stressful part for me because I do have a company business account through my company. I've had it since 2011 when I started.
Right.
So if I was going to switch, I guess I would need to create my own business account. Email address.
Yes.
This is also a good reminder that whenever you do make a new account, it can't just be like Alissa at Gmail or Alissa at Yahoo.
Right.
Like it had for our E&O insurance to protect us against wire fraud and other scams, you have to have a certain level of security in your email. So just make sure when you're setting all of that up, you are aware of that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think you need to have your new email address ready. And in some cases, you might want to start having things sent there. And you've got to download all of the things you need out of your old email because it is a button for most brokers. Oh, you're not here anymore? Email off.
Like once you, and it's not to be ugly. It's just that you don't work here anymore. So you don't have access to these files, to these resources that we provide for our agents. If all of your documents are housed in a platform owned by that brokerage, you no longer have access to it.
They're going to turn it off like with a button.
One button, everything is shut down, closed.
Right. Yeesh.
So that does take, one of my friends in the business switched brokers and she said she prepped for 4 months.
Oh my.
Before making the transition because she just wanted it to be, she didn't want to feel rushed. She wanted to make sure she was really being thoughtful in how she was communicating to people.
It's also like you want to give it some thought, like we're not just going to rush into the divorce.
Yeah.
Let's think this through. Do I still want to do this in 4 months?
Yeah.
I mean, right? Last on email. Your email signature, if you own your email, if you're like, oh, I own my email address, no problem. Well, check your email signature. Do you have brokerage information there? You got to fix it. All right. What about your phone contact? So anywhere that you're sharing, like.
Yeah. Like when I'm like, hey, let me send you my contact. I have loved sharing my contact. I know it's sort of like it's like the new business card.
You're like, here
if you will. It has like mine is set up to have my picture and my name and my email and my social media handles. Like
that's
it's
cute.
All just sent to them.
How do you share it? Like with you just hit it, text it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can like airdrop it or how you can email it. It's there. So however they want it. And then they just click add. And my information is there exactly how I want myself to appear.
Right. So you need to change that.
Yes. So that has links to Instagram, Facebook pages, email addresses, all of that.
Yeah. And then you have to think about, do you need to change the usernames? Was your company somehow involved in your usernames on those social media platforms?
Yeah,
what about all of the bios? What about your bio on any website and update your info and take this opportunity to update your photo.
Yeah.
Now's a great time. What do you look like right now? We might as well change it. But not just so your personal website, if you're on something like Zillow or Realtor.com or a Google business account. The Google business account is going to take some time because they need to mail you something like to an address. So get all that started. But at the very least, don't forget you need to do it. Some of those you could probably do after. And then we did update your social media. So that was all of the digital contact info. Now let's talk about software and websites. It was so fun. Hey friend, are you thinking about changing brokers but afraid it's too much work?
Don't worry, not only have we created episode 245 to walk you through it, we've also created a broker change checklist.
Grab it for free at hustlehumblypodcast.com/change. Hey y'all, what about your database? Where do you keep that?
Hopefully you keep it somewhere that you have control of.
Right. And if you don't, and you're thinking about this ahead of time, at the very least, you should be removing your personal sphere from any CRM that your broker owns.
Yes.
Because look, I will tell you, people did leave because I worked a lot of online leads even through my RE/MAX website.
Yeah.
Because I built up my website where it would get some, organic traffic. I would get a lot of these leads. So my broker knew I would work on online lead, right? When agents left the office and the button got turned off, she would just dump all of their lead into my system.
Yeah. So
y'all, if you have your personal contacts in there, it could be going anywhere.
Right.
To anyone. You don't it also makes me laugh because I think lenders do the same thing. They have their CRMs through their office. And I was on a lender's list, actually someone I used personally for my own loan. And then they changed. And then I started getting messages from a different lender in that same office because I had...
You're still... Well, sometimes it'll say, do you want to unsubscribe from ABC Mortgage or do you want to unsubscribe from Sally at ABC Mortgage?
Yeah, if you're unsubscribing.
So you're on two different email lists. Sally's got you, but the company has you also. I remember, for closings, we always had to fill out a contract information sheet to turn in with our closings. And at one point, it's not here anymore, but we were implementing a new follow-up software. This was in 2012.
Okay.
And it was auto sending things to my people.
You're like, please stop.
And I did not like it. So you can opt out.
Yeah.
So I did. But it was just a reminder to me that if I was to ever leave, all of my clients' contact information
was in there.
This company. It just sort of was a reminder that, and I'm not saying it's not right. It's not
right.
I don't know.
I'll take a stance.
Okay.
The broker doesn't own the people that you have personal relationships with. If the broker gave you a lead, that is completely different. If it came through a source, especially if it's something they paid for and then gave it to you, I can kind of get on board with that. But if I came to it with my Aunt Sally, and just because I used your software, now Aunt Sally is somehow affiliated with you when I leave? Absolutely not.
Think about a broker. Okay, pretend you're the broker.
Okay.
You're building your own broker, Katy Caldwell brokerage email list.
Great.
Every time an agent has a closing or a client that they set up on one of the subdivision reports on a piece of software that's owned by the company.
Right.
Every time they do that, you, Katy Caldwell brokerage, now has a new email that can go on your email list.
I don't want it.
I know, but a lot of brokers do.
I know.
And they use it to add them to other marketing.
Because let's live in this world. At the Katy Caldwell brokerage, I would go, Alissa, I love having you here. I see you've had a closing. Your person's in the system. How can I help you reach out better to your clients?
Right.
It is not about me having your people. It is about you doing it well so that I make money the next time you sell to that person.
Correct. And I think even with things like the follow-up system, that was the intention, is that we will automatically send them a Thanksgiving card.
Right.
When it's their 1-year anniversary, we will and some of those things were good, but they also were not my style at all. Like, I would never send this card.
Yeah.
And I don't even care what things look like.
Right.
And I wasn't.
You were like, no, thank you.
No, thank you. Like,
no,
we don't
you.
need to do this.
Well.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have our people on the spreadsheet. And we still stand by that.
Yeah. Your spreadsheet is yours.
And here's the deal. If you don't, and all your people are in your broker CRM, and you're panicking whether you plan to move or not, you're suddenly realizing maybe that's not what I want. It's usually a pretty easy button. Download CSV file.
Yeah.
You can get all your people onto a spreadsheet.
And if you're not leaving brokers, continue using your broker CRM.
The tools are fine.
The tools are not the problem.
No.
But if you plan to leave, you need to make sure that you have all of your people backed up to somewhere that you can take with you and keep. Once it's turned off, there's no going back.
There's no going back. There's no going back.
And then if you export your CRM to a spreadsheet, if your new broker has a CRM, you can easily import it.
Yeah.
You're not having to manually put in all of these names and email addresses again. It's an import feature.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, this is so stressful, and I'm not even moving.
You're not even doing it?
I'm not even going anywhere.
All right, next up on these software websites, how about your MLS? What do we have to update for logins, your business info? Like, what is it? Is it connected to your board? Are they going to do that for you? Do you need to get in there and do something? What about our new picture? Let's put that everywhere.
Has your MLS login stayed the same because it's just your MLS login? They just had to update your company name within your profile?
Yeah, it's mine.
Okay.
It belongs to me.
Right. You pay your MLS dues.
Correct. The broker did not.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And then, of course, all of this has another layer on it when you're on a team. What if you're on the team and you're leaving the team, but you're not leaving the broker? You know, like maybe you don't have to do all of this, but maybe you need to consider some of this.
What I have heard from people is leaving a team, especially a team that provided you, air quotes, leads.
Okay.
They want their pay even after you leave. So if you got a lead from that team and 2 years later they finally close, you signed something most likely that says you owe that team leader.
I know, but like I have so many questions about how do they monitor that and who has time for that?
I know.
As the team lead, do I have time to go snooping around if you're not going to automatically tell me, like, and figure out who the buyers and the sellers are and if they were mine or not?
I think you would be surprised at the resources that they put in place to
keep up
track those things.
Ugh.
It's crazy.
No thanks.
It could be as simple as a questionnaire sent out to their lead database. This is what they used to do with the Dave Ramsey stuff.
Okay.
I'm getting these leads along with 2 other realtors getting the leads. And may the best one get the client.
May the best agent win.
But periodically, that email address is in the Dave Ramsey database. So they can send out correspondence. That's like, did you ever end up buying? Yes or no?
Who was your agent?
Who was your agent? And so if they put, Sally Sue, well, Sally Sue wasn't one of the 3 agents that Dave Ramsey gave it to. They know nothing is owed. But if they say Alissa was our realtor, then I get an automatic message that's like, hey, we gave you this lead, so you now.
Where's our money? Because it was on you to get them the money?
Yeah. Like when I closed, I had to mail in a copy of the closing disclosure, copies of everything, and then put in my contract information sheet, this percentage is owed to this brokerage. So it was just like a normal agent referral. Now, another thing that they did was if it was a seller lead and the seller provided the address, because that's usually what you have to do.
They would just search to see if it had sold.
They would set up searches.
Like an auto.
Thing. So if this address got a status change or something like that, they would know to follow up for it. It was much easier to track a seller lead
100%.
than it is a buyer lead.
Yeah.
But they have software that does that for the team leaders.
Yeah, because they're protecting their money.
And the brokers. Yeah, they're investing in these leads. So they're going to have software in place to help track.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I don't understand it all, but I have witnessed it. I know that it works.
So you have to keep yourself honest.
Yeah, even, I don't receive Dave Ramsey leads anymore, but there were a few people that I still follow up with. And when I close one now, even though I haven't been a Dave Ramsey agent for a few years, if they came from that source, I I pay them.
Yeah. Okay. Are we ready to move on websites, software? What about your showing service? Update your login, update your business info. How do you, is it connected to your office or like ours is connected to the MLS? So it's easy. It's when I switch my MLS, it switched, right? Document prep and storage. Y'all, this is probably the number one. If your broker is currently housing your contracts, they're in Louisiana, they're responsible for that.
Yes.
I don't have to keep that. I have to just keep my agency disclosures. If you only have yours online with that broker, you should probably download them and keep them somewhere else that you have access to because you need them. But what if you need to access the details of a contract and they hit the button and turn you off? And you were like, you can't even help your past clients figure out something from their deal? Or what if, even worst case scenario, what if you get pulled into some kind of type of lawsuit and you don't have access to all of that? So Dotloop, Instanet, DocuSign, whatever you have, wherever you're, SkySlope, wherever you're storing things, like, can you save things? What can you download them? I did it from Dotloop and it was pretty easy, but there was a system that my new broker gave me, like, it was like, you need this software. It'll go into Dotloop and it'll take your files and copy them. It would have taken me hours and hours and hours if I didn't know that. So bless her.
As a broker, these are services you should be providing to those that you are recruiting.
How do they get their files?
It sort of reminds me, like, I have this client right now that is working on possibly building in a neighborhood. Getting what we need from the builder has been such a nightmare that they are at the point where they're thinking, if this is how it is trying to get going, I don't know that I want to be in this process with this builder.
Right.
So if you are a broker and you are spending all this time and money on recruiting, and then the second you get them to sign, you're not taking care of them or providing resources, it could be very short-lived.
I would think. And whether they go back to their old broker or just find another one.
Yes. And what are they going to say to other agents? They're going to say, oh my gosh, when I made this transition, my broker gave me all the software I needed to transition. It was so easy. If you want to do it, you really don't have to stress. You should come join me.
Yeah.
Or are they going to be like, if you don't have to switch, don't. It's so hard. This is all the things.
I'm never doing it again.
I'm never doing it.
It's like when people move and they're like, I'm never moving again.
Yes, because it's so hard. But it's like, it's sort of like when people spend so much time on getting new clients. I want new clients. I want new clients. But then they get new clients and they like toss them to the wind and keep trying to get new clients. It's like, you will have the best business if you are taking care of the business you already have.
Right.
So brokers, please just make sure that everybody understands this.
Right.
That you are providing value.
You need to. What's the point of the move? Last on our software list, Canva. Update your saved logos. Update your brand colors that are saved. If you have Canva Pro and you need to save that, it makes it easier. Go update your standard marketing stuff, right? And then your email templates. What wording is specific to your broker or their process? Do you need to change anything with your email templates? Obviously, update your signature on those and any contact info that's saved. That was our list.
Yeah.
Now, you got us some other lists from other places on the web. And I like that this one did it in before you announce, 3 stages. Before you announce, after you announce, and spread the word. We don't really care much about spread the word, but it did have like terminate listings, re-sign with a new brokerage, that kind of stuff with your clients. But email campaigns and notes to I don't know that you need all that. And then this one, was pretty thorough, but it was everything we said. Set up everything in your new brokerage, all the things we just talked about. It had links to like every single, like update your buyer and listing packets. Like you got to update anything.
Yes.
But this is a great time to clean house.
Maybe they should go back and listen to Spruce Up Your Business episode. Just Google Hustle Humbly Spruce Up Your Business. It gives you so many great checklists of what you need to go through to just clean house, start fresh. What do you need to update? So that would be a really good one to accompany this episode.
I have seen some really unpleasant breakups.
Oh, yeah.
Like really unpleasant breakups. And the worst ones, then become a money struggle, right?
Yeah.
Because there are things still pending. A sale comes in. The agent that left doesn't realize they have to keep paying that old broker, or the old broker is going to sue the new broker for not giving the money they're supposed to. Y'all, I mean, you have to think this all the way through before you just jump into a change.
Well, I think too, this is a type of confrontation. People aren't good with confrontation.
Yeah.
They don't like having hard conversations. So if they can just sneak out the back without having adult conversations, they might prefer that.
Yeah.
But that leads to a much bigger mess.
Right.
And you will feel so much better after talking to your current broker and saying, this is where I'm struggling. What are your thoughts? I'm thinking I need this in my life, and see how it goes after that. And then if you feel like you really need to go, start on the back end, implementing some of these things. The biggest time that I have seen people regret changing is when it was only looking at the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
I had an agent that was like, hey, I created this spreadsheet of all the different splits at these different brokers that I'm looking at going to. Could you just review them and tell me which one you think is best? And I looked at it, and we are really nickel and diming, because I don't care what the splits are. After, maybe the percentages are different, but this one has a transaction fee, or this one has an office fee, or this one has a desk fee, or this one has this or that. Maybe this one is tiered and maybe this one is not. At the end of the day, they all came out so close to getting about the same money.
Yeah. The total you spend that year.
These differences are not worth switching over. So the question is not as much once you know how it works and you're comfortable with it, let that go.
Yeah.
You don't need to be like, oh, if I would have been with the other brokerage, I would have made an extra $100.
Yeah.
Let that go.
Yeah.
The question is, and I told her, I crumpled it up. I was like, no. What are they providing you? What are they giving you? How is the broker? Can you call them if you have trouble?
Yeah.
If you're going to arbitration, will they be there with you?
Right.
What are they giving you? Do you have a desk? What is their training like? I care not about the $100 to $200 difference between what your check is going to be.
Yeah.
I need to know the other reasons. But the problem
what's the value?
They focus so much on the money. And I actually wrote this down because you said it earlier in the show. You are being recruited.
Yeah.
They will make money off of you.
Yeah. That's their business.
That is their business. If you think that switching companies is going to make you work harder, going to make you do what you're supposed to do, it is not. That's still a you problem that you're going to have to fix somehow.
Right. You
making money for you is your job.
Right.
There is no brokerage that's going to, make you a millionaire.
No.
You have to get to work and develop your own business. Will they provide you some leads? Great. I'm sure you're going to pay heavily for that. What are you going to do to get your own business up and running?
Right. I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to,
and learn from the people that we have seen email the show that had these regrets, or, were switching strictly because of leads or splits or money. That can't be the primary driver.
No, I think it's fair to take it all into account. And maybe money started you down that path. And then when you started to compare everything, you're like, well, it's even more than that. Or maybe just the amount I'm spending, I'm getting a different value, right? Well, I get these things, or I really want to be with this broker, or I need, I feel like that's the right person to mentor me, whatever. But you're right. You have to work.
Yeah.
If you're not going to work, it doesn't matter. And again, you can go back to episodes 194 is how to choose a broker, from the jump. So maybe you are like, well, I'm going to make a switch. Before you get worried about your to-do list, how do you choose one? Go to 194. And then should you even change is episode 56. Should you? Maybe you're thinking the wrong thing.
Right.
And if you're here with the to-do list, maybe you go back to listen to those and realize you don't even need this list.
Yeah. And as far as the big announcement goes, the only people that pay any attention to those are other agents. And then we talk about you.
I know. It got to, this is so funny. It got to the point in my phone where I started to put people's brokerage when I added them to my contacts so that I would know. Because then you'd be like, well, wait, where were they before? And I couldn't remember. I'd just be like, but some people change.
So much.
With the seasons.
This might be a good reminder that if you are in the Hustle Humbly community and you are on the referral spreadsheet, If you switch brokers,
Go
please
change.
make sure you update
go
that. We
change
want
it.
to be able to find you still.
Right. I mean, hopefully it's your regular but that's a good point. What other directories are you in?
Who knows? Your stuff is out there everywhere.
Here's my other takeaway about this. If you want to make your life easier, right now, start a document with every place that your bio is, your photo is, your contact info is, every group that you join that makes you put your information onto a referral list. Where are you giving out contact info? And especially if it's like client facing or like public facing, what if they try to reach you and they can't?
Right.
What if only your old business email is on your whatever, realtor.com account, and you have Aunt Sally lost her phone, doesn't have your number, and just types you into Google and is like, here you are, and that's not your email anymore. And she's like, why didn't you respond to my email?
Yeah.
That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be prepared for all of the digital switchover is probably the hardest.
Yeah, I think so. And even as you go, every now and then I'll stumble across some random website that I'm like, where is this picture from?
Here's a great story. Not long ago, since we started the podcast, so in the last 4 years, I had the local state CRS reach out to me. So that's the designation CRS. They're like, just wanted to let you know we featured you as our, agent of the month on our Facebook page. And, thanks so much for being a CRS and blah, 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 whatever. I go to look at it. I'm like, where is this picture?
Oh my gosh.
Where did they get this picture?
Terrible.
It's so old. It's so, so, so old. And I was just kind of like, I won't even share this.
No.
So instead of you being like, great, I'll share it to no, I was like, I'm so embarrassed. Also, you could have been like, hey, what's your current headshot? I would have given it to
I
him.
wanted to surprise you.
I guess that's the problem. Didn't that happen? That's happened to us on the podcast before.
Yeah.
Not that they were trying to surprise us, but we've been like featured in
a magazine.
Like a magazine.
Thankfully, it was a picture that we used. They
just grabbed like the picture off of the website. But I'm like, it's
but
fascinating.
make sure there's no pictures of you that you don't want.
Right. Google yourself and hit the image search and then just see what pulls up.
That's a great thing to do after you have made the switch and you're done with your checklist. Google yourself.
Yeah.
See what else comes up. Where else are you being seen on websites? Because there are websites that pull from other websites that I never put my stuff there.
No doubt.
So see what those are doing as well. So much to think about.
I like, though, even if you're just going to switch your headshot, not your broker, just Google image yourself and be like, well, let's scrub. When they talk about celebrities or like these reality star people and they're like, they scrub the internet of whatever. I'm like, how?
I'm sure there's software.
You just have to have, it's work, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's all work. Okay. Great. I'm going to go Google image search myself.
I know, I need to probably
I'm going to fix it all the same.
Mm-hmm.
So it's consistent.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the how-tos of the broker switch, even though you've never done it, so you're basically useless to us?
I just think it's a decision that you don't want to take lightly.
And you don't want to be sued over it.
You don't want to be sued. It's a business decision.
Some brokers are going to come
like a business.
They're going to come at you.
This is not an emotional decision. This is a business decision.
It can't be allowed. It can't be like today I got in a fight with my broker or someone in my office and I'm just like, bye.
I'm leaving.
But wait, I wonder about other states because in Louisiana, I have to get my old broker to sign that document in order to release my license to the new broker. And everyone's got to sign it.
I just remember when I served on the board of directors for our local market, the board is the one who has to approve membership.
Right.
So we would have a list of new agents and that are asking permission to join. And then we would have a list of people that are not renewing their real estate license, getting out of the business altogether. And to see how many times changes are made, companies change.
You're like,
companies merge, teams, new teams. Think about the team turnover.
Oh my God. Even just in Inman or like other real estate news outlets, they're always like, so-and-so team has been absorbed by such and such brokerage.
Keeping up with all of that is a full-time job.
And
I'll tell you who doesn't care. The public. They don't care.
They don't care.
They just want to buy and sell a house.
And for you to help them and that to be your focus, not
and you to provide value. They don't care what your brand colors are and that you're changing them.
No.
They just want to know that you're going to be there for them.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing.
Exactly. Okay, that's a good way to end. All right, are you ready for the toast?
Yeah.
From our friends at NAR Next. Ooh. Do you remember Kaylee?
Yeah.
Okay, so Kaylee came to our meetup. Kaylee Price.
So sweet.
So Kaylee is going to toast to Carly Moreland. They're both in Amarillo, Texas. And actually, Kaylee was, I think, on her board, or her mom was the AE, right?
Yes.
I love it.
They were sweet.
Okay, so nice. So let's hear from Kaylee.
Okay,
bye, y'all.
Hi, I am Kaylee Price from Amarillo, Texas, and my toast today is for Carly Moreland, also in Amarillo. When I was a newly licensed agent, Carly really took me under her wing and taught me a lot of things and encouraged me to learn more and be more involved with our local association. So just wanted to say thanks, Carly.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Hustle Humbly podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to ratethispodcast.com/hustlehumbly and leave us a review or drop a comment if you're listening on Spotify.
If you have an episode topic or someone you'd like to toast on the show, please email us at team@hustlehumblypodcast.com.
Find us on social media at Hustle Humbly Podcast. Don't forget to find all of the free resources at hustlehumblypodcast.com/resources.
See you next week.